So let's discuss general management of fractures today. The general principles of fracture management depends on 3 points. First, reduction of the fracture. Secondly, immobilization of the fracture to stabilize the fracture site. And lastly, performing a rehabilitation. Let's start off with reduction, the first step. The principle of reduction is to restore the anatomical alignment of a fracture or a dislocation. Now, what is the purpose of reduction of a fracture? Reduction helps you in stopping the bleeding at the fracture site, that is, plugging the bleeding or the tamponade of bleeding. Then, reduction of the fracture also helps in reducing the swelling in the surrounding soft tissue. Reduction will also help in reducing the traction or pressure on any of the nerves or blood vessels which are surrounding the fracture site. The main principle of any reduction, regardless of the method employed, is to correct the deforming forces that have resulted in the injury in the first place. Now, reduction of the fracture is going to require pain management. As you can understand, reducing a fracture can be painful. You can provide a regional or a local block which can be sufficiently delivered, and should be easily available. Commonly, the patient may require a conscious period of sedation that can be done when you're performing it in the emergency rooms, which are generally equipped with airway adjuncts, anesthetic agents, or monitoring systems. Now, coming to the maneuver, it generally requires two people. First of all, a person who will perform the reduction maneuver, and second person to provide a counter traction. A third person may be required to apply a plaster cast. Now, once you have reduced, we move to the immobilization part. Regarding immobilization, it is important to consider whether the traction is needed. This is most commonly employed for subtrochanteric neck of the femur fractures, femoral shaft fractures, displaced acetabular fractures, and some other pelvic fractures, because the muscular pull across the fracture site is quite strong and the fracture is generally unstable at these sites. Now, the most common ways to immobilize a fracture is via using a splint or a plaster cast. Now, when we are doing that, there are few principles to be remembered, or these are here. First of all, the first 2 weeks, the plasters are not circumferential. That means they should have an area which is only covered by the overlying dressing to allow the fracture to swell. Now, if this is not followed, the cast will become tight and subsequently painful within a night. The patient will have a risk of developing a compartment syndrome, and if left untreated, it can cause a loss of limb. Secondly, if there is an axial instability, the plaster cast should cross both the joints above and below the fracture site. These are usually termed above knee or above elbow plasters to prevent the limb rotation along its long axis. And these are generally referred to, or these are generally done in cases of fractures of combined radius and ulna metaphyseal fractures, or combined tibia and fibula metaphyseal fractures. For most other fractures, the plasters need only across the joint immediately distal to it. Now, there are few other clinical points to remember when we are immobilizing a fracture. First of all, always inform the patient if they can bear weight on the fractured site or not. Secondly, provide a thromboprophylaxis. This is done in a case when the patient is immobilized in a cast and is not weight bearing, to prevent from any thrombus or a clot formation. Lastly, provide advice about symptoms of compartment syndrome. Patients must be advised about compartment syndrome symptoms, and they should be advised that in case they develop any of these symptoms, they have to report immediately to the emergency department. Now sometimes or most of the times the definitive method of immobilization can be a surgical intervention. The last step will involve rehabilitation. Now following the fractures, the patient's joints or affected site can become stiff due to immobilization or long-term immobilization, and this will require intense physiotherapy post immobilization. This is done to achieve as much as possible joint movement or movement at the fracture site. Now also advise the patient to keep the non-immobilized unaffected joints mobile. They should keep moving those joints. Lastly, an adequate rehabilitation program is required in elderly group. Now it is important to remember that many fractures occur in the elderly group, and this can make the old age people or elderly group unable to use any of their joints or be a weight on their bones or make a limb unstable or unable to use a limb. This can have a very profound or a huge impact on their daily life, and they may not be able to cope up with their daily activities. Now therapists or physiotherapists are therefore essential in making sure that this group have suitable adaptations implemented for them during the rehabilitation phase. So let's summarize the key points. First of all, surgical management of fractures is done generally by reducing the fracture, immobilizing or holding the fracture, and lastly rehabilitating the fracture. Secondly, reduction to be performed with the aim to achieve anatomical alignment of a fracture or dislocation. Fractures will need immobilization with or without traction to ensure successful healing. And lastly, rehabilitation is required, especially in the elderly population. We cannot emphasize enough on the rehabilitative part. That summarizes the whole lecture. I hope that helps. Go ahead, pause the videos, pause the lecture, and repeat the lecture so that you have a good understanding of the basic concepts of fracture management.